Some people confuse silence with weakness, but the sharpest minds use silence as a weapon. They walk slowly through conversations, as if time is listening to them, not the other way around. You won't find them interrupting. You won't see them fighting for attention. But when they finally speak, everyone feels the shift. That's not confidence. That's precision. And it doesn't come from loudness, and it comes from understanding what most people miss. Today, we're not talking about surface-level tips. We're stepping into 3 powerful techniques hidden beneath the surface of dark psychology. Not the kind you use to impress, but the kind that lets you guide someone's mind without them noticing the weight of your presence. This isn't a guide for manipulation, it's a manual for influence. Quiet, grounded, and almost invisible. You'll see how emotion becomes leverage, how timing becomes pressure, and how the unspoken can move people further than persuasion ever could. And by the end of this, you'll carry a toolkit most people will never see, not because you told them, but because they felt it. Let's open the first layer. Technique 1, the silence that speaks first. There's a moment before any deal, any conversation, any decision, where nothing is being said, but everything is being decided. People often fill that silence. They rush to explain, to justify, to prove. But those who understand dark psychology, they don't rush. They let that silence breathe. Because in that stillness, you give the other person space to project their insecurities, their urgency, their assumptions. When you say nothing, they start saying too much. And the more they reveal, the more control you quietly gain. This isn't about awkward pauses. This is about intentional restraint. Let me show you how it works. Imagine 2 people sitting across a table. One asks, "So, what are you offering me?" The other leans back, looks, and simply nods. No words, just presence. Seconds pass, the air thickens, and suddenly, the first person speaks again. I'm willing to lower the price, or include more in the package." But nothing was said. That's the trick. When you withhold the obvious, you invite the other person to fill in the gaps. With fear, with overthinking, with concessions. And they will, because people fear silence more than rejection. They fear not knowing what you think, more than hearing something they don't like. Silence, when used correctly, becomes louder than words. It creates a space where the other person feels unbalanced, not because you attacked them, but because you gave them no shape to push against. They try harder, offer more, submit without realizing why, and all you did was hold the space. It's subtle, it's powerful, and it's the reason some people seem to always get better outcomes without raising their voice. This is the beginning of psychological control, the quiet kind. Technique 2, the mirror that isn't a mirror. There's a kind of influence that doesn't speak louder. It simply reflects back what's already there. It's not about flattery. It's not about manipulation in the loud, aggressive sense. It's deeper, quieter, and more permanent. You've seen it before. That person who makes others feel deeply seen without saying much. They say things like, "So, you felt like that offer wasn't made with you in mind." Or, "You were expecting more honesty, weren't you?" And the response, almost always, "Yes, exactly." That's not coincidence. That's calculated empathy. Dark psychology calls this echo framing, a form of psychological alignment where you repeat back not just words, but emotional states. It sounds simple, but when done with emotional intelligence, it becomes unsettlingly effective. Here's what happens. If someone says, "I don't think this is fair," you don't argue. You pause and then reflect. So it felt one-sided to you. Now, you've taken their emotion and shown them you see it. That changes everything. Because people don't fight those who echo their truth. They trust them. They lean toward them. They want them involved in the solution. And now, you've shifted from opponent to ally, all without giving up control. In fact, you're guiding the emotional current without ever touching the surface. This is why certain negotiators win people over. This is how manipulators convince without pressure. And this is what makes some leaders unforgettable. Because they speak into someone's emotional space without stepping on it. If someone feels heard, they stop defending. They start opening. And in that moment, your suggestion, your solution, your influence slides in, like it was their idea all along. Because you weren't loud, you were in tune. And most people don't even realize it happened. This is the second pillar of psychological control, the silent echo that bends reality, gently. Technique 3, the pattern behind the mask. Every person you meet is living in a loop. They think it's their personality, but it's really just repetition, worn down into identity. That's where this next dark psychological technique comes in. Behavioral loop infiltration. Let me explain. Most people act the same way over and over in certain environments. They respond to rejection with retreat. They respond to kindness with overtrust. They respond to silence with oversharing. It's not random. It's a script. And once you can see the script, you can rewrite it. Let's say you're talking to someone who constantly seeks approval. They try to impress. They over-explain. They say sorry too much. Instead of challenging them, you amplify their loop once. You say, you don't need to apologize. You've done nothing wrong. Then you stay silent. Now they're caught because they don't know what to do with stillness. They're used to performing, and when the performance isn't needed, they feel exposed. This is infiltration. You step into their loop, interrupt it, and let their confusion create openness. And that space, that's where influence begins. Dark psychology isn't about dominating. It's about knowing exactly where someone hides from themselves, and then standing quietly in that spot until they can't ignore it. Most people don't want to change, but when their loop breaks, they'll start searching for something solid. That's when you offer the new rhythm, a new behavior, one that benefits you and feels like a relief to them. You didn't argue, you didn't confront, you observed and disrupted. That's the game, because in every toxic relationship, in every manipulative situation, there are loops repeating, over-explaining, overreacting, people stuck in habits that no longer protect them, but define them. Once you learn to see it, you'll stop reacting to the noise. You'll start reading the code beneath it. This is the third mastery, not louder, just smarter. At the end, you didn't just hear about dark psychology today, you felt it unfold. We didn't talk about how to be louder, we talked about how to be quieter and still win. You learned the first technique, the art of controlling the space, not by speaking more, but by holding presence, letting the other person wonder what you're thinking instead of rushing to explain it. Then the second technique, how to plant emotions that feel like someone's own, not by force, but by giving them just enough space to complete the thought you suggested. That's influence, without resistance. And finally, the third mastery, you saw how patterns trap people, how their habits become scripts, and how you can walk right into their loop and break it. Not with noise, but with silence. These three techniques aren't just strategies. They're awareness. They're weapons hidden inside stillness. And once they're yours, you'll see people differently. You'll hear things in conversations no one else does. And you'll respond, not react. That's what real power feels like. Not manipulation, not fear, but precision. So if you found something here that woke up a part of your mind, a sharper side you always knew was there, but never had the words for, don't walk away. Subscribe, not because you need motivation, but because you've just stepped into a room most people never even find, and the next time someone tries to manipulate you, you'll see it before they even speak.